What is up, Boardwalk Empire fans? Kino here, and welcome to the start of a whole new reaction series. The Wire reactions that I did were pretty popular, and so I decided to do the same, and for another show that is in the same realm of, critically acclaimed shows. This time we're going to be looking at Boardwalk Empire, the series created by Terence Winter, who, in my opinion, was probably the best writer on The Sopranos. So, I'm really excited to dig into this series. I think it's going to be pretty good, just given the fact that I know Terence Winter, is an incredible writer. Now, a couple of notes before we jump into the episode review itself. First question I'm sure is on everyone's mind is this a prelude to me doing a Boardwalk Empire log series where I, break down every episode just like I did with The Sopranos and I'm doing for Breaking Bad right now? The answer is maybe. If I do, it's going to be far off into the future. I'm obviously just starting my Breaking Bad logs. After that, I promise to do The Wire. So that's at least 2 years worth of content already. So a future Boardwalk Empire series would have to come after that. That being said, I am open to it if that's what you guys, the viewers, want. I know a lot of you guys are really into Boardwalk Empire, so more than happy to do that if, I really like this series. I haven't watched it all the way through before. Although I will say that I've seen clips. So I'm not going into this completely blind. It was the same way with The Sopranos for me, actually. I actually watched, a lot of clips before I ever watched the series all the way through. That's just kind of the age we live in now with YouTube. But it has been a while since I've seen the clips. And I didn't really have context for them. So I'm going to try to put those out of my mind and just kind of go into this with fresh eyes and just try to react, for the first time. Because this is the first time I'm seeing the full episode. So although there might be a time where I see something and I'm like, oh yeah, I remember that from a clip. But with all this, preamble out of the way, let's just go ahead and jump into the episode. This is the pilot episode. I actually didn't look up what the title was. I assume it's called the pilot, but it might be named something else. I'll look it up later. But this is the first episode of the series, and it was actually directed by Martin Scorsese. I think I remember reading that in the intro. And I've heard that before, that he teamed up with Scorsese for this, which is really cool. Great director, of course, and that's a really high mark of honor to have your pilot episode directed by, one of the greatest directors of all time. So definitely a good start for the series. Before we jump into anything, let's talk about the title sequence, because it actually starts off the series. We don't have a cold open or anything. I'll say that not a huge fan. I didn't hate it, but I wasn't like, oh, this is such a cool intro like I was with The Wire excuse me, or anything else. It's a very stylized intro, which the last few shows I've watched, it hasn't been like, The Sopranos was, just him in the car. The Wire was, just kind of showing what life was like on the streets. This one's a very kind of artistic, title sequence. And the music was a little weird. It was like folk rock kind of, music. And that didn't really fit me, the 1920s kind of theme. You'd think they would have gone with something a little bit more flapper music, jazz, that kind of stuff. But maybe they're trying to defy expectations. And I don't know if it's going to change over the course of the seasons or if it's always going to be that, but didn't blow me out of the water. But not that it has to. It just has to, be a little bit of an intro. But beyond just that, we are introduced to the premise of the show, which is that it takes place during 1920s Prohibition times. The liquor has been declared illegal. And as a result, a lot of these, shady characters are going to make a lot of money off illegal liquor. And our main character is one of them, Enoch Thompson, Nucky Thompson, played by Steve Buscemi, who, of course, was on The Sopranos and, a million other things beyond just that. But that's how he and Terence Winter obviously got acquainted. And so he is I think the treasurer of the city. I think that's what they said. Basically, he's in the local government of Atlantic City, which I've never been to New Jersey, but I know it's kind of like the Vegas of the East Coast. At least during this time, maybe was associated with gambling, liquor, women, just kind of a shady city. And of course, he's a shady character here, involved with illegal stuff, while at the same time kind of appearing as this like morally good person. He tells a story at the beginning of helping his family and eating rats, and it's a lie. And immediately after he leaves, he's drinking some alcohol, even though it was a temperance movement. He said he hated alcohol. So lovely hypocrisy there, but we're introduced to a lot of the characters in his world. His brother is a sheriff in the town. He's friends with the mayor, and he has his sidekick, Jimmy Darmody, who is a World War One veteran. Yeah, World War One. And has been away for a while, but he's come back, and now he wants to kind of move up. Although Nucky doesn't quite trust him, which we'll see in this episode. That's pretty fair. And he's also something of a local leader, like a pillar of the community, because we have a woman named Margaret Schrodinger. I kept thinking of Schrodinger when they said her name. I think it's Schroeder. And she is kind of a poor Irish immigrant, in a bad marriage to an abusive alcoholic, who kind of comes to him for money to support her family. Her deadbeat husband, who still drinks and beats her, steals the money, and she's into some trouble this episode that Nucky has to kind of take care of. So again, we're seeing that Nucky is, even though he's a criminal, he's a man of morals, so to speak. He's he wants to help people who he feels deserve it. At least I don't think he was trying to get anything from this woman per se. It seemed like he did what he did, which is have her husband killed, because he beat his pregnant wife to the point where she lost the baby. So again, he comes at the end of the episode with flowers for her, and it's kind of seeming like maybe he might pursue a relationship with her, but I don't think that was his intention going in. I think he was just trying to be a good guy. So we can see that he's got one foot in both worlds. And in fact, Jimmy at the end of the episode says that to him. It's like, you can't just be half a gangster. So I imagine that will be kind of the central conflict of the show is, how does he balance out, dealing with all these shady characters who we're introduced to, like, Arnold Rothstein, very famous gangster. Lucky Luciano, played by Vincent Piazza, who was on The Sopranos. He was Hernan, AJ's douchebag friend. But he's obviously, in history, a very important figure in the mafia. Al Capone we're introduced to. All these great historical figures. So it's cool to see them when they're young and before they've kind of established themselves and their reputation. But we're going to see how he deals with them versus also, I think, trying to maintain his own moral code and what he's comfortable with. Beyond just that, we're introduced to the Prohibition agents. I think they're they said they were with the Internal Revenue Service, but is the IRS the one in charge of Prohibition? I'm trying to remember the Untouchables, because they got Al Capone through the IRS. I don't know, but I don't know if they're lying. But basically, it's Prohibition agents who are investigating. They know that Nucky's corrupt and they know he's alcoholic. The lead one is played by Michael Shannon, great actor. Fantastic casting all around in this episode. We got some Sopranos actors, got some new people. But yeah, just incredible casting. I'm coming on 10 minutes here. I know I've been talking a lot. I haven't talked too much about the plot because, this episode is a little bit like, sorry, sorry, I'm recovering from a cold. This episode is a little bit all over the place. It was a little bit hard for me, I think, to kind of tell exactly where they're going with everything. I wasn't like super wowed. Like I was like, oh my God, I need to keep watching this. Although I know it's a good show and, I don't mind if it's a little slow or whatever, but, it was a little bit like, I wasn't sure exactly, like it wasn't like a clear message of like, okay, here's what the show is all about. But we'll check out next episode and we'll see how it develops. I'm definitely willing to give it a fair shake and react to the whole series because, just like I said, I know Terry Winter is fantastic. I know he does great work. But I've been talking for a long time here. This is the first episode, and stay tuned for the next one coming soon. What's up, Boardwalk Empire fans? Kino here, and we're back with another episode reaction. This time we're looking at the second episode of Season 1, The Ivory Tower. And I just looked up the title, and I realized that the last episode is called Boardwalk Empire, not the pilot, but same thing, basically. I think the pilot episode of Sopranos is sometimes called The Sopranos. The pilot episode of The Wire is called The Target, so that's completely different. But a lot of times the first episode will either be called the pilot or it'll be the title of the show, which in this case is Boardwalk Empire. So kind of similar to last episode, it feels like we're just getting started here. We're getting just kind of like little tidbits of these other characters, but it's mostly focused around Nucky and Jimmy. But I think they're going to expand that slowly because we got like one scene with Arnold Rothstein and Luciano, one scene with Al Capone. And so I think they're going to kind of expand to these other characters as well over time. But for now, kind of focus on just establishing these main characters. So, again, no really overarching plot line, I'd say, of this episode. There's not really one thing going on. We have Nucky kind of dealing with the aftermath of the robbery, although not really. He kind of just tells Rothstein to go fuck himself. Even though he's arguably in the wrong here, in the sense that, like, he guaranteed the packaging, took payment, presumably. And it never reached him. So yeah, he just told him, like, basically just fuck off. But I kind of feel like, it's not good business necessarily if he's going to be like a provider of alcohol. I don't think he likes Rothstein after Rothstein, kind of cleared out his casino. But I feel like he still owes him the alcohol or at least the money back. Maybe not the full 100,000, although I could see Rothstein's point, which is maybe that, he's inconvenienced by the robbery. I don't know. But regardless, we've got that going on. We have Jimmy kind of trying to win get back into good graces of Nucky, which, I don't know, it's kind of weird that he betrays him in the very first episode. Maybe that's just indicative of their relationship, but typically you would think, we would establish how they work together and stuff like that, and they have a partnership, and then Jimmy would betray him later. But the first interaction we get is kind of a betrayal. But in this episode, we have him trying to basically make up some money that he owes Nucky, or at least Nucky decided that he owes him. We have some interesting scenes with Jimmy with his family. So he's got a wife and son, obviously, but he also has a mother. And when we first see her, she's like naked, and she like runs into his arms and starts like kissing on him and stuff. So we can kind of see that their relationship is a little bit inappropriate here. I'm kind of getting some like incest vibes from what's going on here, but I don't know, maybe they're just more affectionate back then. It was also weird that he was like starting to kind of do his wife in the same room as their son. And I guess that, like, back in the day, if you're poor, you're all sharing one room or whatever. Maybe this is just my modern kind of prudish, American stance. But I was like, I don't feel like I would want to do it with my kid in the room. But I don't know. That's just me. So we've got Jimmy being a little bit weird sexually. Or maybe, again, like maybe it's just old-fashioned times. But regardless, I think I wasn't exactly clear what happened, but I think what happened at the end there was he bought his mom a necklace that she'd sold basically to keep a roof over his head, and I think he stole it back at the end there to pawn it or sell it or whatever to get the money to pay Nucky, and we see Nucky just take the $3,000 and gamble it on roulette, which by the way, that's my favorite thing to gamble. But he loses, and it's just like, whatever. And I think Jimmy at the end there was like, I sacrificed all of that just so you could piss it away. It was nothing to Nucky. He didn't give a shit about the $3,000. And so I think we're gonna see more conflict. I think he's gonna be like, oh, okay, that's how you're gonna treat me. Well, I'm gonna steal more from you. So I could see more conflict between the two of them. I don't think it's gonna be all right. But regardless, we have that going on. We have Nucky's brother, Eli, basically trying to frame... I'm blanking on her name. What is it? Maggie? Schroeder. Hans Schroeder's wife. Margaret. I think it's Margaret. But basically trying to have her say that her husband was the one who robbed the liquor supply. Although Van Alden, doesn't buy it. He knows that Nucky's corrupt. He knows that it was someone else that did it. And at the end there, we have Margaret asking for a job. I think was the sub. She didn't want charity, basically. She's smarter than she first appears. She's not just like a battered housewife, whatever. She's a little bit educated. At least she's read books. So I think she and Nucky are going to have some kind of a relationship, because the girl he's with right now is just some dumb bimbo, doesn't care about him at all. So I think he's going to kind of fall for this more classy, more educated, more thoughtful woman, which is Margaret. So I could see that happening. But like I said, no real clear thing that's happening. It's just, it feels like setup. I enjoyed the episode. I like this kind of world that we're in this this 1920s flapper world. I'm still waiting for a kind of a takeoff moment. And again, The Wire was kind of the same way. Just kind of set up, just kind of establishing things, taking its time. But just knowing Terry Winter, I know it's going to pop off eventually, and we're going to get some great character moments. Speaking of which, I saw, obviously, Scorsese's an executive producer, but I also saw Mark Wahlberg is too, which, I know he's like a Hollywood legend or whatever, but I didn't know he was a producer. Although I think he produced Entourage too, so maybe, but I wouldn't consider Entourage, at least from the little bit I've seen here and there, to be like a high-class show. So I'm wondering what is, why he's a producer on this show. But again, producer doesn't necessarily mean like you're a writer or whatever. Maybe he's just funding it, or I don't know, doing some stuff. But regardless, that is pretty much what happens in this episode, and hopefully we'll check out the next one soon. So I'll talk to you guys later. What's up, Boardwalk Empire fans? Kino here, and we're back with another reaction. This time we're looking at the third episode of the first season, Broadway Limited. Now this episode is the first one where it kind of feels like the plot's actually kind of developing into something. We have some kind of major shifts happening, although still very slight. Like I said last episode, It's been taking its time, establishing characters and introducing different groups. And this is the first time we're really kind of introduced to Chalky White and the African American side of the Boardwalk Empire. They're running the liquor distillery now that Mickey Doyle, the idiot, has been kicked out of that role. And definitely Michael K. Williams' performance is reminiscent of Omar. Very similar accent. I think this came out in 2010, so that'd be after The Wire ended in like 2008. So I think a little time had passed, but definitely still the same kind of attitude of very shrewd, street smart gangster. So cool to see him reprising that kind of role. Now in this episode we have a development with the federal agents investigating what happened in the woods. It turns out there was a survivor. So one of the guys who they shot managed to live for a while, returned, and Van Alden, who is determined to kind of take down these criminals, is acting a little bit like a criminal himself, very kind of hypocritical. I think what happened was he had like a fake warrant that let him take the guy, and he was planning on taking him back to New York. They didn't make it all the way over there. And so they had to basically barge into this dentist office and try to get him awake. They give him cocaine, which again was funny that back in the day that they used to be just like a legal drug. And Van Alden kind of murders the guy too. It's implied he was going to die regardless. But he like sticks his hand into the dude's guts and like forces him to tell him. And then when he dies, he has this like Bible verse he has memorized where it's like, if you work with the devil, the beast, you will be punished basically. So we can see he's willing to he's willing to break the law to do what he wants, although while still at the same time having a very kind of black and white worldview. It's very hypocritical. He was like talking shit on the other agent for reading someone's mail, which is like, you're reading someone's private correspondence. And he's a very like repressed kind of guy. So I think what's gonna happen is it's gonna be one of those like, if you fight monsters, beware you don't become a monster kind of thing. I think he's so focused and so much black and white in his belief system, it's going to lead him to basically being a criminal. And we'll see if he gets in trouble for doing that. But interesting character, Van Alden. I think he's it's going to be interesting to see his kind of journey over the course of the show, presuming he sticks around the whole time. But we have that going on. We have Jimmy basically, being forced to leave because the feds now know that he was the one. Basically, Al Capone kind of fucked him over by saying his name out loud, which you shouldn't do. And so the feds now know it was him, so he has to get out of town, has to leave his wife and kid behind. And we're seeing the, kind of distance that's been growing between him and his wife and his son. Basically, him being gone all those 3 years in the war has basically led to him like being a non-entity for the family. And he's feeling a lot of resentment for, his wife, bonding with other people, another man, his son kind of having another father figure. And so at the end here, he gets aboard the Broadway Limited, which is a train, which is taking him to Chicago, which is where Al Capone is. So they'll probably team up while they're up there. But definitely Jimmy has some like personal problems in his life that it's implied that like even before the war, he was distant. They didn't really know each other. So I don't think it's going to be a happy relationship with him and his wife. Maybe he'll meet someone new, a new woman that will, spark his interest. Just like the same thing with Nucky this episode, or not. It's not the same thing with Nucky, but I think that like I keep predicting, like I said, that he's going to kind of strike up a relationship with Margaret. They don't have any interaction this episode, but the fact that Margaret's kind of serving the dumb bimbo that he's with right now, and she's kind of acting superior to her. I think they're kind of setting up that Margaret's gonna take her place, basically take her man. I think Nucky kind of wants a woman like his his passed away wife, who I don't know if I'm if I'm just mistaken, but the picture of his passed away wife, she looks like Alma from Deadwood. I don't know if it's the same actress or not, but I might just be mistaken. But that also got me thinking about kind of the timelines we have of like different shows. So you have Deadwood in like the late 1800s, which kind of leads into this show in the 1920s, which kind of leads into like something like Mad Men, which takes place in the 50s, all the way to these other shows that take place across all the timelines. But you can kind of almost make like a map of like the different shows of when they take place, and there's a lot of crossover. But we also have some things going on here with Chalky. One of his guys gets killed by Benny Fazio, the criminal mastermind. He is I don't know what he is, but he's like I think just like another gangster. He was like bankrolling Mickey Doyle, and I think now that the African Americans have taken over, they lynch this one dude as like revenge, and they're trying to it's an all out war for control of the liquor. So again, we're seeing that all play out. But regardless, a lot of interesting stuff is happening, and it seems like the plot's really actually starting to move forward. So I hope we get more gangster stuff. It seems like Luciano's going to come into the mix. He's going to go down to the boardwalk and try to figure out where Jimmy is, even though Jimmy just left. So we got conflict with Rothstein, Luciano, Al Capone's probably going to be thrown back into the mix. So we're really setting up some conflicts I think are going to play out over the course of the season. And of course, there might be an election subplot happening. They keep referencing that it's an election year. Obviously these guys are concerned about politics because they're political figures. So definitely got an interesting formula for conflict this season. We'll see where they take it. But that's pretty much all I have to say for now. And we'll check out the next episode soon. What's up, Boardwalk Empire fans? Kino here, and we're back with another reaction. This time we're looking at the 4th episode of the first season, Anastasia. Now this is actually the first episode that I, after watching it, really felt like I had a solid idea what this episode's about. I'm sure the other episodes, if I went back and looked at them, I could probably suss out, like a solid central like theme and storyline playing out. But this is the first one that felt very tight and coherent in terms of, what it's all revolving around. And it's exactly the title, which is Anastasia. So at the beginning of the episode, there's this story going around that like there's this woman they found in the river, has amnesia, and she's claiming to be the Princess Anastasia, the daughter of the Russian Tsar, who was obviously killed and deposed a few years before this. If this takes place in the 20s, I don't know exactly when it takes place, but in the like 1918 or something like that. That's when the communists kind of took over Russia and deposed Anastasia. I might be wrong about the exact year and stuff like that, but it's around the same time. So particularly Margaret is fascinated by the story. She's telling it to her kids like a fairy tale, and she believes in it a little bit. Not to a crazy extent, but she's like hopeful and like optimistic, and she has a heart. But throughout this episode, she kind of comes to realize that fairy tales aren't real. One, at the end of the episode, she literally sees a newspaper article that it was fake. But beyond just that, she has this kind of Cinderella-esque moment with Nucky where they're dancing at the ball. And then, she steps away and she sees that, his girlfriend, Lucy, pops out of the cake with, half naked or whatever. And she's kind of realizing that she's not a princess. This is not really a fairy tale. Nucky's not a prince. Not that she necessarily even wanted him, right? I don't think she kind of even realizes what her feelings are for Nucky yet, and vice versa too. I think he doesn't. I think he's attracted to her, and he likes her because she's got a mind of her own. She's not just like a dumb, woman. And I don't mean to like shit on Lucy or whatever for excuse me, for being uneducated or whatever. Because that's the whole kind of point of that scene where, they're kind of being like, oh, what's the League of Nations then? And the women don't know it. And they're like, see, the women shouldn't have a right to vote. Well, fucking of course, dummy. Like, if you're talking about women have been excluded from, education and politics for the last 200 years of American society, it's not going to instantaneously be like they know everything that, men do. So that's just such a stupid argument. But it's one I'm sure that some people watching this were like, yeah, right, women shouldn't have the right to vote. But obviously that's not what they're saying. So I don't want to rag too much on Lucy that she didn't know what that was, but it's clearly they're setting up she's like a shallow kind of materialistic girl, whereas Margaret's, much more of a deep thinker, a prudent, practical, kind of woman. So I think Nucky's going to be attracted to that more. And in this, we see them dancing. They have like a classic kind of fairy tale moment. But regardless, Margaret kind of, realizes that, she can't just wait for, a fairy tale to happen. She's got to kind of take action on her own. And at the end of the episode, we see her steal a dress from the French dress shop that she works at. So definitely she is kind of getting a little bit more realistic view of the world. And I think she's going to start to be a little bit more pragmatic and practical and kind of compromise, because that's kind of what you have to do to succeed in this world. So I'm interested to see her journey. She, at this moment, is kind of one of my favorite characters that we've been introduced to. I obviously love Jimmy. We've got a great storyline going on in this one, too, with him. Kind of, again, a fairy tale-esque thing. We have him kind of bonding with a prostitute because he's in Chicago with Al Capone. I love Al Capone, too, by the way. He's such a funny guy, kind of a classic jokester, which is a great contrast to the kind of serious portrayal of him we see in something like The Untouchables. He's in this one, he's like a classic, a young jokester type of guy. But he befriends this prostitute, and she, again, is someone who's trying to escape her life. She's going to go to Hollywood and be in the movies. But at the end of this episode, the Greeks, I think that's what the group is. They're basically fighting for control. Or I think they're Irish, actually. So they go into there and they know that Jimmy likes this girl. And so they carve up her face, which is, horrible to see. But also tragic because, she'll never be in the pictures now. Even though obviously Michael K. Williams, got to be in the pictures because of his scar almost. Definitely it's not going to be for a woman. So, definitely kind of setting up like a fairy tale-esque, rags to riches, meet a prince, kind of fall in love. He even really looks like a prince, Jimmy, but it didn't work out. So again, we're seeing that theme here, and that's why I say this episode is the first one I really got into where I was like, oh, okay, I get the thematic and, how it all ties together here. So, I gotta admit, the first 3 episodes, I was, carrying along. I liked it decent. But this is the first one I'm actually really like, ooh, I want to watch the next one now. So, again, some shows take a while to get into it. But, beyond just that, I love the world that we're in here. 1920s, Great Gatsby kind of to Roaring Twenties. I love the aesthetic. I feel like I'm gonna buy an outfit like that so I could wear it for these reactions. But man, there's something just so sexy about that world. I mean, I know, of course, in reality, like, a guy like me is not going to fit in at that time period, but it's still fun to kind of put that aside and be like, I would have loved to have been a guy with a hat and suit walking around the boardwalk. Just a fun time to explore, a fun moment in history. There's so much like change happening, and it's a time of great prosperity before the Depression. Again, I like the aesthetic of this world, and it's fun to see all the characters in it, doing their thing, doing their 1920s thing. So, yeah, I know I rambled on for a little while here, but really good episode, very solid, and can't wait to check out the next one. So, I'll talk to you guys soon when we watch the next one. See ya. What's up, Boardwalk Empire fans? Kino here, and we're back with another episode reaction. This time we're looking at the 5th episode of Season 1, which is Nights in Ballygran, I think it's called, which I think is probably an Irish town because this whole episode deals with St. Patrick's Day and the Irish. Most of our main characters, at least on the boardwalk, are Irish. Like Jimmy is, Nucky is, Margaret is. So this episode obviously deals with their culture a lot, which, not to be stereotypical or anything, but a lot of Irish culture revolves around drinking, which of course Prohibition has now caused problems for. We also get some interesting, before I just dive into like the plot of the episode, we get some like interesting like Irish historical background. So Ireland has traditionally been in conflict with England. They reference Cromwell and the famine and the troubles that are going on between Ireland and England during this time. So definitely a little bit of history there, which is pretty cool to see. But in this episode, we have a number of things happen, a number of very happy and sad things happen. So on the one end, we have Margaret trying to go after Nucky. Like she likes him. He's been nice to her and kind to her, and now with her husband dead, I think she obviously is ready to kind of meet someone a lot better than her husband was. And Nucky is a kind and generous and powerful person, so she likes him and tries to approach him. He's very cold to her at the beginning of this episode. And I think some of it was because he didn't like all the Irish stuff going on. It was just like trouble for him. And two, I think he was a little bit maybe scared of his feelings for her. Like he didn't want to complicate his life. And, she is someone he respects, but is also someone who is probably not as, just complacent when it comes to what he's involved in. The alcohol, she's part of the Temperance League. His other girlfriend or whatever is just, too simple to really care about any of that stuff. But I think he's been avoiding her for that reason. And so she kind of takes revenge, so to speak, by going to Van Alden and telling him about the beer that they have stashed behind her house. The dude who owned that warehouse or whatever, Neary, I was wondering where I placed him from. He is the I don't remember. I think it was like Seamus or something, but he was the like prison guard commander in Oz, the good one, the one who was Tim McManus's friend. So that's how I know him from. He kind of looked like George Mormont from Game of Thrones, but I was like, no, that's not him. But he kind of had a similar face. But again, a lot of HBO crossover here. There was another one. Carmela's father from The Sopranos is Nucky's father in this show. So that's pretty funny. I wonder if they'll bring in the mother, who was also Karen's mother in Goodfellas. She's really funny. I wonder if they'll bring her on this show too. But I'm sure that's not the end of the many Soprano crossovers we're going to see. But regardless, we have that going on. And then at the end of the episode, Nucky goes to her and is just like, he knows that she did that, to get his attention. And he's like, I'm done playing games. I want you. And they kiss, and maybe do some more stuff. Although, her kids are in the house, and I don't know. There was that whole thing with Jimmy doing it in front of his little kids. So I don't know. Maybe they'll do it. But the point is, he's admitted his feelings for her, and I'm glad to see them together, even though I don't think it's going to end well, just because, none of these shows end well. God damn, that's the thing about dramas. Like, we love the drama and attention, but there ain't no happy endings. There's going to be fights and dramas and all that shit, and, that is life, but, man, sometimes it'd be nice to just be like, oh yeah, these people will get together and they'll be happy ever after. But it doesn't happen, just like last episode. And we see the same thing here with Jimmy in Chicago. He is living with this prostitute, Pearl. They've kind of, formed a relationship together, and she's the one who got carved up last episode. She is, one, addicted to laudanum, which is opium. She drinks it and smokes it, and uses it as a way to dull the pain of, both the physical pain and also, the emotional pain of the fact that she's not beautiful anymore. We actually see her scar, and it's pretty rough. And even Torrio is gonna kick her out of the whorehouse because she's not making enough money. It's a cruel world, but that is just, it's how it is back then, and probably still today. Kind of realizing that, there's no future for her anywhere now that she's not beautiful. At the end of the episode, she kills herself. And, this is a traumatic thing for Jimmy. He's already faced loss, by the fact that he's had to kind of leave his family. We see his wife in this episode go to the photo booth. She's sleeping with that photo dude. She one, Jimmy was gone all those years, but two, he's probably not coming back, at least from her perspective, and so she's probably gonna go with that guy. And we have an interesting thing where, excuse me, his mother offers to take care of the kid, and she can go, run off and do whatever she wants to do. Which I'm wondering why she did that. I wonder if it was like a test to see if she's loyal to Jimmy, or maybe she just wants the kid. Maybe she, wants another chance at motherhood, like maybe a do-over. Not sure what her motivation is exactly, but we've got that going on. But at the end of the episode, we also have Jimmy, smoking opium, so it's not a good look that, that's an addictive drug. So hopefully he doesn't descend down that path. But we'll see where it goes. But very good episode again. Really liking this. Feels thematic. We have conflict between Nucky and Eli in this episode. Eli, I think, wants to kind of be his own man, so to speak. He's kind of living in Nucky's shadow and kind of carrying on his coattails. But he wants to be his own man here. And I think I could see him, basically betraying his brother, so to speak, to kind of, develop his own realm of power. We'll see. It doesn't seem like there's a strong brotherly bond between the two. We'll see where that goes. But regardless, that was this episode. A really good one, and I can't wait to check out more episodes soon. So I'll talk to you guys then. What's up, Boardwalk Empire fans? Back with another episode reaction, and this time we're looking at the sixth. Yeah, I think this is the sixth episode. Family Limitation. What a great title. It's got multiple meanings here. The first, quite literally is a pamphlet called Family Limitations. I just looked it up. It's a real thing from history, and basically just a book about birth control and like very primitive methods, like kind of douching with Lysol, which does not sound pleasant at all, and I don't think that's probably good for you. But back in the day, that's pretty much all they had. And beyond just that, kind of refers to the limitations of family. The how much is Margaret really getting from this arrangement she's entered into with Nucky. So to give context, in this episode, we learn that Nucky has agreed to kind of provide for Margaret and set her up in this nice place, and in turn she'll have sex with him and have a kind of relationship. It's in other words, it's kind of like a prostitute relationship, or a concubine relationship, as one of the other girls mentions. And at first Margaret is pretty happy about this. She wants to be taken care of, and she likes Nucky and thinks that he likes her, which he does. But he kind of stands her up at the end of this episode, and she's kind of realizing that, being just his kind of whore is not as glamorous or as good for her, like, self-esteem or whatever, as she kind of first thought it would be. So, it'll be interesting to see where their relationship goes, because, I don't think I think she's gonna demand more. Like, that's been her whole thing kind of going through this, is like, she's slowly kind of, come to a more pragmatic and practical opinion than when we first saw her. But at the same time, she's not comfortable, I think, just being just a girl to him. And she kind of said that to what's her name? Lucy, the other girlfriend, that they were being kind of competitive over him. And she's like, your act of like just being like a little girl, like a needy, sexy little girl, whatever, is kind of like a one-trick show, whereas she is more, intelligent and thoughtful, and that's why Nucky likes her, which I think is true. Although Nucky being Nucky, he's got the same weaknesses that, like, all men have, not just sexual, but like, just being too consumed with business and putting that above her. They're not even together, so to speak. It's still a concubine kind of relationship, but even still, like, I think they are going to come to a head here, especially because one of the themes not themes, but like the background things happening in the show is women getting the right to vote. That's happening around this time. It's getting really close in the show. They only have one more state to ratify, and of course we know that they do from history. And that whole time period is a kind of liberating moment for women, and them taking a more active role in society. And so I think she's gonna not just be content to be his whore, basically, not to sound mean or anything, but essentially that's kind of how she views herself now. So we'll see where they go with that. But we have some more stuff going on. Excuse me. One, we have Luciano, being in a relationship with Jimmy's mom, which is such a weird pairing in my mind. But they're together. He likes her and trusts her, and she seems to like him too. In this episode, he kind of comes into conflict with Nucky, because Nucky thinks he's leading the Italians that kind of robbed his man, although it's not. It's it's Benny Fazio's guys, I think. So, and I don't think they're together. Again, this is a time period before the organized like mafia. So, Luciano works for Arnold Rothstein, who's Jewish. We've got Jimmy in Chicago working for Torrio. We'll talk about the Chicago storyline because it's pretty good. But yeah, this is a time period before like the kind of formalized structure of, the mafia has been established. And of course, we know that will come to dominate the underworld moving forward. But it's cool to see all these characters before they become like the historical figures that we know it. The same thing with Al Capone here. So we have Jimmy, Al Capone, and Torrio kind of taking revenge against the Irish guys who hit their brothel. They make a deal, but then they betray them and like they kill them all. And this is great revenge for Jimmy because Pearl was killed by all this. But beyond just that, Jimmy kind of calls out Al Capone for lying about being in the war. Al Capone was talking shit himself, so he can't say anything. But at the end of the episode, kind of comes to Jimmy and is like, hey, you kind of hurt my feelings back there. Which, again, it's so... I really like the different take, or not different take, so to speak, but like the different portrayal of Al Capone and what we know him as, of like, the ruthless, tough-hearted gangster. I love that he's like a comic jokester kind of guy. He's a little sensitive, and he's short too, which is cool. Again, I just so different than like the portrayal in The Untouchables. So again, really excellent casting all around to see all these characters when they're very young. But that is pretty much all I had to say for this episode. We'll check out the next one soon, and then I'll talk to you guys then. Actually, right as I turned off the recording, I just realized that I wanted to talk about one more thing, which is Van Alden, because dude's a weirdo. So at the end of this episode, well, at the beginning, he kind of gets chewed out by his boss for not really making a case against Nucky yet. They need a lot. I think he wants just more like seizures, whereas Van Alden's kind of making it like a personal thing against like Nucky and these gangsters. And Van Alden is a weird dude. At the end of this episode, he finds a picture of like a very young Margaret, age 16, which I think the implication is that the picture like turned him on, even though I don't know, it was just a picture of her. Like, I don't know, there's nothing sexy about it, but I don't know, maybe he just thought she was pretty. And so he like whips himself, and then we see on his back's like torn to shreds. So apparently he does this a lot. Again, he's like a really religious, strict kind of guy. And so even though he broke the rules earlier too, so he's kind of hypocritical, but I think the fact that he was just turned on by the picture, like he had to punish himself. Such like a strict, stiff kind of performance from him, which is great to see. I mean, Michael Shannon's fantastic in this role. But definitely a weird guy, and I think his like inflexibility and like kind of self hatred, so to speak, I think is gonna blow up in his face. I think he's gonna probably do some bad stuff here because it's like all this pressure is building up inside of him, and he like doesn't really have a way to release it. So that's just my theory of how it's gonna go, but who knows. But regardless, this dude's too much of a weirdo to be like a hero, so to speak. But there's probably no heroes in this show, to be honest. That's kind of the trend of most modern TV, is that there's no one who's just good. I mean, everyone's just shades of gray rather than black and white. But regardless, that's pretty much all I had to say. And for real this time, I'll talk to you guys when we watch the next episode. What's up, Boardwalk Empire fans? Back with another episode reaction. This time we're looking at the 7th episode of Season 1, Home. Now this is a very character-driven episode for Nucky. We're given some information about his past, his background, and kind of given a sense of like how he's become the man he's become today. Um, so we opened this episode with his father, again played by Hugh, not played by Hugh, but the actor who played Hugh in The Sopranos. So it's fun to see him back in a role like this, very very different than the one we saw in The Sopranos. He is much more of a kind of domineering figure than the kind of meek guy we saw be dominated by his wife. But he is kind of an abusive older man, living in kind of squalor in their family home with a bunch of cats. So we can see he's just very like rough around the edges. And he gets into an accident at the beginning of this episode, and he can't live alone anymore. So what's his name? Eli takes him, agrees to have him live with his family. And it's interesting because he says that his wife and kids won't mind; they love him. But we see in this episode, or at least we hear through Nucky's perspective, how abusive his father was to him. So it's weird to kind of see he's beloved by Eli and the others, but maybe his abuse was only really directed at Nucky because he was the oldest. But regardless, this has kind of left a profound impact on Nucky. He hates at home. He doesn't want it anymore. So he agrees to, basically just give it away to, I don't know who this guy is. He's like an associate of Nucky's or works for him or something, but, regardless, he agrees to give him the house. It's all dilapidated, but, if you fix it up, it's yours. So he does that, and at the end of the episode, Nucky is kind of there alone by himself or with the little kid, and he burns down the house. He lights it on fire. It reminded me kind of The Sopranos, when Tony beat Zellman, even though he had already agreed it was okay for him to date Arena. Which Terry Winter wrote that episode too, I believe. So, again, it's it's a character feeling one way, but in their head they just are so consumed by their emotions that they do the opposite of what they said they were going to do. Although in this case, Nucky is much better than Tony because he actually pays the guy for a new house. If it was Tony Soprano, he would have been like, "Get over it." Oh, that's a terrible fucking impression I just did. But regardless, so he's clearly just unhappy with his childhood, and he wants to destroy the memory of it, literally by burning it. But we can see how this has probably led him to where he is today. He is someone who's gone through the pain of life and is now ready to do whatever it takes to protect himself and protect the people he loves. So interesting backstory for Nucky here. We get some more development with him and Margaret. Seems like they're really starting to connect on an emotional level, not just as a John and his prostitute or whatever. He actually starts to really care for her, I think, in a way that's much deeper than how he cared about Lucy or whatever. Kind of sad to see what happened to her, because even though I kind of ragged on her at the beginning as being a dumb kid or whatever, she's kind of lost without Nucky. It was sad in the end of the episode, watching her watch Jekyll and Hyde alone, which is what he said he was going to go do with her. She's definitely not as strong of a woman as Margaret, and as competent as a person as her. But that kind of makes it all the more sadder when she kind of doesn't have I can't believe I'm saying this, but a daddy figure to kind of take care of her. So I don't know if they're going to be just done with this character, or maybe we'll see her grow or something. Who knows? But a little sad to see that. But regardless, that's one half of the story. we've got some minor developments with Luciano. He's teaming up with the Benny Fazio character. I don't know the guy's name, but the brothers who are all in Atlantic City. So that's interesting. We also have the first introduction of Meyer Lansky, who is a very famous figure in the Jewish mafia. Again, these figures are very young. This is before all of that. Again, I love that they're willing to cast very short actors in this role. Or maybe it's just a trick of the camera or whatever, but you can see how short Meyer is, and it's like, I feel like that's gonna, one, that's realistic, because in real life, a lot of, these famous figures that we know were not, maybe the most impressive physical presence of anyone, but they use their intelligence and their brain to get it done. But again, it's so interesting to see that, like, they're not going to typical Hollywood route of, like, everyone has to be this gorgeous movie star. It really adds to the world that there's people of all different body types in this show. Al Capone's the same way. So cool to see that. And I'm interested to see what they do with his character, because, again, these are two very famous historical figures. But the other big thing we have is in Chicago. We have Jimmy going to a veterans hospital because his leg hurts. And while he's there, he meets a guy named Richard Harrow, who, very gruesome, like half of his face is blown off, and he wears this like tin mask over his face. And he's a little bit of a strange guy, a very blunt kind of, straight to the point, a little socially awkward. But he is a crack sniper. He's like a gun expert, like a soldier through and through. And so at the end of the episode here, one, Jimmy is nice to him throughout the episode and helping him out. And so he helps him out by basically assassinating the guy who cut up Pearl. Which that scene when Jimmy's talking to the guy and he's like, I'm not going to kill you, whatever, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I'm wondering why he did that. I mean, I get why from like a cinematography direction. It's like, we want to see him interact with this guy. And I guess I could say he just wanted to kind of put a little bit of fear into the dude before he died. But I'm always wondering, like, why, if you're going to just kill someone, why bother with the speech, right? It's like the classic, what do you call it? Austin Powers, Dr. Evil kind of moment, where he's like, just kill him. Although they do kill him here. The same thing happened last episode when they killed the Irish crew that they were beefing with. There's a moment where Jimmy's like talking shit to this guy before he blows his head off, which, I mean, I get it, because Jimmy wants, revenge for what happened to Pearl, so he's kind of trying to make him suffer a little bit more before the end. But I'm always just like, there's no point in this speech. I remember the same thing with Paulie in The Sopranos when he kills the Colombians, where he's like, this is a warning to your friends to never come back here. And it's like, I'll warn them. And it's like, they've been warned twice. Now I'm going to tell them. And he shoots the dude. And I'm like, why bother with that little monologue if you were just going to kill him? It's pointless, but it's fun. So I get it. But regardless, that is the episode here. Really great one. And like I said, I'm really starting to get into this series. Like, the first few episodes had me just kind of a little directionless. I wasn't grounded like within the characters yet. But now I'm actually like really interested to see where they go with all of them, and they're slowly introducing more and more. So we'll check out the next one soon, and I'll talk to you guys then. And we're back, this time with lights. I just got some lights for my setup here to kind of brighten the room and stuff like that. So picture should be better now, which is pretty nice. Looks pretty good on camera here. But regardless, we're here for another Boardwalk Empire reaction. This time we're looking at the 8th episode of season 1, Hold Me in Paradise. Which, when when I watch the episode, I can see what the title is when I click on HBO Max to play the episode. And so I'm always wondering like what the title of it is, and it's usually something like very thematic to the episode. But the title in this episode is pretty funny when you have the context. It's like Warren Harding's like love poem to his mistress, which is pretty funny to think. I wonder if that's real. I didn't look it up if that's a real thing or not. But it could be. I imagine that most of these guys had mistresses and had all these kind of side dealings going on with. But so in this episode, Nucky goes to Chicago. He is attending the Republican presidential, I don't know what you call it, convention, basically where they pick who's going to run for president in their party. They still have to compete in the election against the Democrats, but the Republicans have, I think, been winning most of the elections here ever since the Civil War. Like, Republicans dominated after that for a long time until the Democrats kind of took it back for a while. So definitely a historical, a real historical thing happening right now. He meets with Warren G. Harding's manager. Again, it's funny they're portraying Warren G. Harding as like this idiot, which from what I know about politics, he's definitely not the most favorable president that's looked upon, especially because of how he's going to handle the Great Depression when it comes up, but that's down the line here. So definitely some historical truth there, but he's playing, kingmaker, so to speak, because he has the whole New Jersey delegation behind him. He'll do whatever he says. And so he actually, like, he's there to help get Senator Edge from New Jersey as the VP. But in reality, he's actually like trying to stop it because this guy betrayed him and didn't give him his roads that he promised him. So pretty satisfying that Nucky got to end this man's political ambitions. But regardless, besides that, he runs into Jimmy, who has been working for Johnny Torrio, and offers him to come back to New Jersey because he needs help. Because in this episode, the brothers rob the casino, which Luciano set the whole thing up. But they rob the casino that he runs, and they shoot his brother Eli. We'll talk about Eli in a moment because I want to talk something separately about him. But Nucky realizes he needs more muscle, and so he invites Jimmy to come back. He tells him that even though he's doing good with Torrio, he's not Italian, so he'll never be, fully in that group, which that's definitely something that happens during this time period. We see the consolidation of, ethnic identity in terms of gangs. Like, it's always been there, but we early on we see some crossover with, you got Luciano working with Meyer Lansky, who's Jewish, Irish, Italian. It's all kind of mingling together until it gets formalized under Luciano. And then that's where we kind of start to get the, structure of the five families and only Italians and stuff like that. So, but definitely at the end here, when Nucky's watching him while talking Italian, he definitely realizes that he's always going to be an outsider here. And so he decides to go back home, and also to kind of reunite with his family. Although that will be interesting because we know his wife is sleeping with another woman. She's a lesbian. And she also is not really that in love with Jimmy. Although some of that might have been because he wasn't sending her letters, which he was. It was just Van Alden was seizing the letters and holding them. And speaking of Van Alden, he has his own little storyline in this episode, which is his wife wants to have a baby, but she can't. She's got something wrong with her uterus, and she wants to go to a doctor who can supposedly help her, but it costs a lot of money, and he doesn't make that much money. And so at the end here, we see that he has all the letters with the money from that Jimmy was sending his wife. And he's been holding them. And so he takes all the money, and we're thinking like, oh, he's going to take it to give to his wife or whatever. But it turns out, no, he sends it to Jimmy's wife, and he doesn't steal. Again, he's got this very strict moral code. And it's very interesting storyline, because when I first saw it, I thought like, okay, this is where we're going to see that he's really a hypocrite, and despite his black and white morality, he's, willing to break the law, which he kind of was, because he gave a fake warrant before, and he twisted that guy's guts. But he does seem to have at least at this point, he's staying true to his morals. So I'm gonna give him credit for there. Although I wonder, what's gonna happen with his wife, because she seems a little bit crazy. So we'll see what happens with that. But regardless, we had that going on. And then what I wanted to talk about with Nucky's brother, Eli, is the sense I'm getting from him is that he constantly feels like overshadowed by his older brother. And so, in this episode, he's in charge of Atlantic City while Nucky's gone, and like no one wants to come like see him and do business. We saw the same kind of thing happen with the toast, at the Irish ball or whatever it was. So excuse me. So I think he's struggling to kind of become his own man here, and I think that's going to lead him into conflict with Nucky. I think he's going to be like, I want my own thing separate from Nucky, where I'm in charge. So he might even betray his brother. We'll see where that goes, but definitely I could see some conflict between the two brewing. That is most of everything happening in this episode. It's going to be interesting to see Jimmy back, especially with Luciano, who is with his mom. Although it seems like she was totally willing to like give Luciano to his son, because they know that it's Italians that are robbing them. So I think he's going to go after Luciano, and I think Jillian's going to give Luciano up. I think she likes him to an extent, but I think she loves her son most of all. So we'll see how that shapes up. But we're definitely gonna see some conflict happening here in Atlantic City coming up here. And then I guess the last thing I should mention is Margaret. She gets sent by Nucky to basically hide his ledger book, because there's no one watching his office right now. But she decides to open it up and look at it, and I think the implication is it's not only that she's just knowing all his business, but now she's knowing how much money he makes. And so that will be interesting. Maybe she'll want a cut of it. Maybe she'll want to be involved in more of that. She doesn't strike me as the type of woman who wants to just sit at home the whole time and just mind her place. I think she's gonna want to step up and like maybe get a piece of the action going on here. So and Nucky does seem to rely on her more and more. So I can see it happening, but we'll definitely see if there's some issues between the two of them now that she's kind of uncovered his secrets and seen just how much like money this guy's like a multi-millionaire. In a even adjust for inflation back then too. It's like, Jesus Christ, this guy's rich. So we'll see where that goes. But that's pretty much the episode. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll check out the next one soon. What's up, Boardwalk Empire fans? Kino here, and we're back with another episode reaction. Today we're looking at the 9th episode of season 1. Or is it the 8th episode? Let me check real quick. 1 second. This is very important. 9th. Okay, cool. I was right. 9th episode of season 1. Belle, Femme, which is, I believe, French for pretty woman or beautiful woman. Although pretty woman would be an interesting connection here, because Margaret has a vaguely kind of pretty woman moment in that she doesn't stand up to the snobby store owner, but she kind of gets her revenge through her connection to her rich man. but in a different kind of way than that movie. But regardless, this episode has a number of important developments happening. So we see the return of Jimmy to Atlantic City. He's rejoined Nucky's crew. He's getting a cut of everything that happens, and he reunites with his wife and son. It's funny, his wife was like in the middle of or about to start a threesome with the photographer and his wife. I don't think though that she is like into the dude though. I think she's like mostly just into the wife. Maybe she doesn't like men at all, although she was having sex with Jimmy, but again, it might just be because, she's in a relationship with him and she kind of has to. But it definitely seemed like she wasn't as into the guy. But Jimmy comes home and is kind of throwing her world into turmoil because she was kind of getting used to him, not being there, and he just kind of wanders back into their life. Although it wasn't his fault that, he wasn't getting, the messages weren't coming through. It was Van Alden who was stopping the letter. So, although again, he could have called, but he didn't. But regardless, definitely some friction there. And I'm almost certain he's going to learn that his wife is, they're not husband and wife yet. I keep correcting myself, but that she's been unfaithful in the sense that she's been with this other woman and potentially the guy too. I didn't know if it was their first time or not. But that will definitely be an area of concern, although he has an even bigger one, which is he goes to take Luciano. Luciano was having sex with his mom, and then she gives him up to Jimmy. Like I knew she would. Definitely she loves her son way more than this guy. And so very funny scene where he's like Luciano calls her, he's like, "You fucking twat, how dare you betray me?" And he's like, "Hey, that's my mother you're talking to." And he's like, sorry. This is pretty funny to see. But right as he's about to take him out of the building, Van Alden shows up and arrests him. And he has the guy from the first episode who's going to testify against him. So he's got it all locked up here. Luciano escapes. He's working with the D'Alessio brothers, and they partner with Rothstein to bring in very high quality liquor to through Atlantic City. But they don't want to work with Nucky because again, I knew that was going to come to bite him in the ass. The way he treated Rothstein, I think he was way too. It was almost uncharacteristic how undiplomatic he was during that situation. Again, I know he's kind of still in his learning curve here, but you would think he would recognize that having Rothstein as a enemy would not be a good thing. But regardless, they escape and Jimmy's arrested. Although the one of the agents who's like Van Alden's right-hand man is actually a traitor. He's working for Nucky. And at the end of the episode, he kills the witness. So we'll see what happens here because I think Van Alden's going to realize what happens. Like it's one, he didn't give him the telegram for a bullshit reason. And then now this happens, he's definitely going to be like, "You're a fucking traitor." He's not stupid. Van Alden's not stupid. He's going to know what's going on. So that will be interesting to see how that develops. But we also have some development with Margaret. So Madame Genet, the owner of the French boutique, asks her to talk to Nucky to lower her like taxes that they're not real taxes. It's the taxes that Nucky just demands them all the people in Atlantic City to run their business. Margaret's able to convince Nucky to lower it, kind of demonstrating that, she is a potential leader in her own right. And Nucky said he wants to rely on her to kind of get the female vote for the Republicans because they're in kind of a bad spot. So she does this, and again, she gets her kind of Pretty Woman revenge moment as she kind of forces Madame Genet, reminds her that when she first started, she called her Stinky, and forces her to give up this very expensive dress to her as like a gift. And so, again, I like the development that Margaret's not just like a pure, innocent soul. Like she's, I think very realistically, like when people become wealthy, like has become through her interaction with Nucky, she kind of develops a little bit of a taste for power and the finer things in life, and she's willing to extract her revenge for kind of being stepped on her whole life. So I like that she's not just this like really good person. I'm not just saying she's evil or anything, but she's willing to be like petty and I should say the writers are willing to let her character be petty and greedy and all these other things that we wouldn't typically associate with a heroine. So I really like that. I think that's a very realistic development. But regardless of all that going on, we also have Nucky dealing with the politics of the Atlantic City. Basically, the mayor and his brother Eli are both being scrutinized by the public for corruption. Eli is, of course, injured after the shooting, so he can't even like do anything to kind of fix things. And so the Commodore he tells him to drop the mayor and to drop Eli. And Nucky's definitely willing to drop the mayor. He's got a new mayor lined up. But Eli's his brother. And, that's definitely, like I said, I knew this conflict was coming. Like, Eli is going to feel even more like, you're shutting me out after I took a bullet for you, after everything I've done for you. There's going to be some betrayals from Eli here. I guarantee it. Maybe it'll be with, Rothstein, and the DeLessio brothers, who knows? And at the end of this episode, of course, they try to assassinate Nucky, but it doesn't work. It's definitely going to be in a bad state, Atlantic City, coming up here as the conflict between Rothstein and Nucky brews. So we'll see how they settle all this matter. But that's pretty much the episode. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll check out the next one soon. What is up, Boardwalk Empire fans? Kino here, and we're back again with another reaction. Excuse me. This time we're looking at the 10th episode of Season 1, The Emerald City. A obvious connection, of course, to Wizard of Oz, which they're reading, or I think they're reading Return to Oz. But regardless, that would be a contemporary novel at this time, of course, and then they're going to do the movie adaptation. At least I think the novel was contemporary. I don't know when it was written, actually. But regardless, this episode, I feel like I always say there's a number of things that happen because that's pretty much, there's always a number of things that happen. But we do have some things going on here. So one beat of the story is Al Capone in Chicago. Torrio is having a meeting, and he gives Torrio this cigarette that explodes as a joke. Because again, the Al that we've come to know so far is a jokester, a prankster, very lighthearted. But Torrio is obviously, mad that he's not taking, being a mobster seriously. And at these, they go to this bar mitzvah for one of their like Jewish associates. While he's there, he learns a little bit about the bar mitzvah tradition. You're a man at 13. The guy tells him it's like, he's wearing one of those, Little Rascals hats. I don't know what they're called. Like newspaper hats. And the dude tells him, like, you should wear a yarmulke. He's like, why? Well, because you're a man, but you're wearing the hat of a boy. And that's kind of Al Capone's thing. He's realized he's been like very childish. And so now he is decided he wants to step up and be a man and, take being a mobster seriously. And so he asked Torrio for some new responsibilities. So this is the beginning, I think, of Al's kind of transformation from, the not innocent, of course, but like the naive kind of chubby kid into being the ruthless gangster that we know him as. So that'll be interesting to see play out. But regardless, that's the Chicago storyline. In Atlantic City, the women get the right to vote finally, and Nucky convinces Margaret to convince the female voters to vote for his like puppet mayor. And he's downplaying like how involved he is with all like how in control he is of Atlantic City. But we know that Margaret saw the book, and so she kind of realizes like how powerful and how deep Nucky's pockets go. So I definitely think she's going to learn more about what he's all up to and maybe not be so happy with it. We have Van Alden coming to her in this episode, being very creepy, like he kind of is. And one, I think he wants to be with her, but beyond just that, like telling her like, you're going to go to hell if you stick with Nucky. And she kind of takes that like in a little bit at the end here, even though she rejected Van Alden. And speaking of Van Alden, we get a sex scene with him with Lucy Danziger of all people. He runs into her at a bar. After she's been dumped by Nucky, she's just drowning her sorrows in liquor and lost. Van Alden is kind of lost too. He's lost his witness. His case against Nucky's fallen apart. His boss is pissed off at him. And so he's in a bad spot. So he actually drinks. And he fucks Lucy. But you can see he's like all torn up about it because that repressed kind of I don't know what religion they are, but like incredibly like orthodox, strict Protestant kind of mentality there. So regardless, that is a pretty interesting development. I can see him. I knew he was gonna like spiral out. I knew like he's wound too tight. He's not flexible enough to kind of survive in this this roaring 20s kind of environment. But we got that all going on, and then we have I should say another storyline with Jimmy here, which is he's out with his wife. And they're getting along pretty well. He's taking an interest in her painting. It seems like she likes him, to an extent. But the son sees a portrait of the photographer and his wife, and he points and says, "That's mommy's kissing friend." And he's of course referring to the woman, but Jimmy thinks it's of course the man. So he goes and beats the shit out of that guy. Which I was very happy to see that. Not because, he was going to sleep with Jimmy's wife, but I was glad to see it because this guy this guy pissed me off last episode, which is when I didn't talk about it, but after the threesome like fails because Jimmy comes home, you can see how much mean he is, like the photographer is mean to her, and like telling her paintings are no good and stuff like that. And you can tell like what happened, which is like he was just saying that stuff to like get into her pants, and now that he doesn't have an able to, he's like not interested. Total like sleazy kind of attitude. So I'm glad he got the shit beaten out of him, even though I don't think he slept with Jimmy's wife. Especially after the scene with his wife and I don't know her fucking name, to be honest. But the photographer's wife. I don't know the photographer's name either. I can't remember it. But the scene they have together, they're planning on running off to Paris. Although I don't know if she's actually going to go. she doesn't like things about Jimmy, but she also, has a son with him, and it seems like she has some genuine feelings. Again, I don't think it's that she's a lesbian, like, fully, like she's just like not into men at all. Because it seems like she does have kind of, I think she's just bisexual and a more kind of like bohemian artist, and so she like doesn't like this like traditional kind of path that Jimmy's going down. So I at least that's how I'm interpreting it. Maybe I'm wrong, but we got that all going on. Then we have the main conflict, obviously, between Nucky and Arnold Rothstein playing out. So Rothstein, sent the D'Alessio brothers to go kill Nucky and take over Atlantic City. They fail. He's obviously pissed off. And so Mickey Doyle, it betrays the D'Alessio brothers because he knows that they're going to kill him once they get what they want from him. Which I'm wondering why they even kept him around all this time anyway. Because they're like, we want our money back, but what is he really doing for them? I guess maybe they needed the information on Nucky. But yeah, I don't know. But basically he knows his time's coming to an end. So he goes back to Nucky, gives him the information on the D'Alessio brothers. Excuse me, guys. Sorry, I'm a little gassy. And they arrange for Chalky to have a meeting with Meyer Lansky and some of the D'Alessio brothers to buy alcohol, and then they take him hostage. The plan was originally to let them go and then bring all the other people back, but Chalky finds out that it was they who lynched his associate. And so he's pissed off. So they shoot one of the brothers, and then Chalky chokes the other one to death. And they let Meyer Lansky go to send a message to Arnold Rothstein that, like, this is what's going to happen to you guys. So we see Nucky embracing the gangster role. He's been kind of hesitant to do that before this, but fully committing to, fighting back against Rothstein, which... Again, I wish that the conflict between the two of them had been a little bit more organic, and Nucky wasn't so like uncharacteristically like undiplomatic. Like, who did you think you were dealing with here? But knowing that obviously Rothstein does not die yet, I don't see him, making a rich corpse out of him like he said he would. I think somehow they're going to either come to terms or a truce, or maybe, they'll be at war for a while, but I don't see either one of them exiting the story in like the season finale coming up here. But we only have, I think, maybe 1 or 2 more episodes this season, and it's going to be exciting to see where it's going. Like I said, the series has got me hooked. It took a little while, but definitely an interesting one. For the time period, the characters, and all these different storylines they got going on. So we'll see where it goes, but thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll check out the next one soon. What's up, Boardwalk Empire fans? Kino here, and we are back with another reaction. This time we're looking at the second to last episode of Season 1, Paris Green. Now, in this episode, we have a number of different storylines happening. One is, of course, the Commodore is dying. The Commodore, I don't know if I talked about this before in other reactions, but he's like the previous boss of Atlantic City. He was like Nucky's mentor. He went to jail for something, we don't know what, and I'm not super familiar with the history. I think he's a real person, though. And I don't know if we learned about it in this episode or one of the other ones, but he's Jimmy's father. So he had sex with his mother, Jillian, when she was like 13 and he was like 50, which is gross, obviously. And Jimmy does not like the Commodore. He feels like, this man abused my mom, took advantage of her, whatever the situation was. And it was Nucky who kind of facilitated that when he was sheriff. So definitely some resentment there from Jimmy for what he did to his mom. Although Jillian herself seems happy with it in this episode, but as we learned, the Commodore is not actually dying naturally. He's being poisoned with arsenic. Paris Green, the title. It's a type of, I think, rat poison or something. And she's poisoning the Commodore. I think the implication is to get his money. Although maybe it's a form of revenge too. They're not mutually exclusive. We see her. At least that's what the implication is. She didn't deny it. So, it'll be interesting to see how that goes. Jimmy gives his blessing. He's like, yeah, if you want to kill him, go for it. I'm not going to fault you for it. We'll see if there'll be if he'll survive or there'll be a final confrontation. He doesn't seem like a super important character in terms of like the plot. So, his main function probably is to serve as, a character to add to the character of Jimmy and Jillian. So, we'll see what happens with that storyline. But we also have some conflict going on between Nucky and Margaret. So the other girlfriend, the one that Margaret's friends with, lives across the hall or whatever. Her man lost all his money in a Ponzi scheme, and it's it's the original Ponzi guy. So this is where we're seeing it happen. When he first brought up that he lost his money, I thought it was a depression, but I don't think that happens yet. So she goes to Nucky for money basically, and they're having this kind of flirty moment, and Margaret sees it and she's pissed off, obviously, for jealousy reasons. But she's also she confronts him finally about the fact that he murdered her husband, and he's the boss of Atlantic City, and he gets pissed off at her because he knows that she's using that Lysol douche to clear herself out so she doesn't have kids, which again I don't think that's a actual thing, or if it is, it's not good for you at all. But he's upset because she doesn't want to have kids with him. Which I don't know if he wanted a kid or not, but I don't know. I don't think he likes the implication, but, they have this big fight, and he storms out, and she leaves, the house. So, we'll see what she's gonna do, cause, she doesn't have a job. Maybe she was stashing money, but we didn't see that. And it seemed like Nucky was kind of aware of what the other girl was doing. So, we're not done with Margaret by a long shot, and we're not done with their relationship yet. But we'll see how that develops. If it's maybe she'll come back to him next episode and they'll reach a new arrangement, or maybe this will be a continuing storyline in season 2 is their fractured relationship. So we'll see what happens. But we got that going on. We have so the election's coming up, and Nucky officially decides to drop Eli as sheriff. Again, I know this. Eli's gonna, betray his brother and go maybe work for Rothstein or someone else. Because again, we see this shadow of the older brother thing happening. He even kind of mocks him. He's they're talking about Harry Houdini's brother, who they saw perform, and they're if he wasn't Houdini's brother, no one would give a fuck about him. Describing Eli, of course. We'll see what happens with Eli, but I can definitely see he's gonna try to strike on his own. There's just this whole archetype of the younger brothers being outshone by the elder. So, that's gonna be an interesting conflict. But the most interesting thing. Oh, before I get to the ending here, Van Alden is, of course, fucking insane. So he knows that Sasso, or Sebso, I don't remember the guy's name, the federal agent who killed the witness for Nucky, who, by the way, I just noticed this. He looks exactly like the guy from, is it L.A. Noire? The Xbox game back in the day, set in the 40s, the Prohibition era kind of situation. And he looks just like the guy, exactly. Maybe they based it off him, right? I don't know. But um, he knows that he committed a murder for Nucky, because the story just doesn't add up. And so he takes Sebso to this like Baptist ceremony, where they're baptizing people in the river. And he makes him get baptized. That's the only way he'll trust him. And so he's dunking his head in the water and being like, will you confess your sins? Like, will you tell what happened? And he's like, no, I don't know what you're talking about, blah, blah, blah. And then he like dunks his head in and drowns him in the fucking river. And he's like, oh Lord, Satan has been purged. And what a crazy motherfucker. He is completely lost it. I think, especially after he sinned the last episode with the drinking and having sex with Lucy, which, I think that just like set him off, where he's like, he felt so guilty when he saw the baptism ceremony. He's like, I have to cure my own sin by destroying this like evil here. So, and Alden's nuts. And, I don't know how the fuck he's going to explain this one. Maybe he'll just be like, oh, I don't know what happened to Sebso. But then he's lying too. So again, it's his morality is like, it can't exist in this world, because it's like, if he does this evil stuff to cleanse evil, but then he's evil too, so it's like his morality just can't mesh together. He's too inflexible to, like, these two sides are kind of like tearing himself apart. So he's I don't see this ending well for him at all. But the main interesting thing in this episode, I'm going to go watch the next one right now, probably, because I just want to know what happens, is Jimmy's wife, who I still don't know her name. I don't know if they've said it or not. But she is ready to leave Jimmy. She's ready to leave with the photographer's wife. They're lovers, and they want to run off to Paris together, and they're all set. And she takes their son, packs a suitcase, and leaves a letter for Jimmy. But when she goes down to meet the wife at the photography shop, it's gone. They've left the place. They've taken everything, and they've abandoned her. And we don't know why yet. It sounded from the guy, they have a classic situation where the guy's like sweeping up, and he's like, oh yeah, they left town and blah, blah, like, classic exposition. But the way he was describing it, it sounded like she left like intentionally with the husband. Cause I thought maybe the husband figured out what was going on and he like murdered his wife or took her or whatever. It's like, you're not leaving me kind of thing. But, it sounded from the exposition that the guy gave that the woman left willingly. So, maybe this was planned, or maybe she got cold feet and ran off. But I don't know. I didn't think it's not like a scam, right? Because Jimmy's wife didn't like give her money to these people in Skip Town. She doesn't even have a lot of money. So I don't know what it was exactly. Well, I guess that's why I want to watch the next one. I want to figure out what happened. But surprisingly, that was the most interesting story for me this episode. It's not one that I was like super concerned with in previous episodes, but I was like, oh my God, I really want to know. Because at the end here, when she comes home, Jimmy's like read the letter. He doesn't say anything, which is much more sinister. When you don't like, silence sometimes is more scary than like him being like, how dare you leave me? So I'm really interested to see what's going to happen here. Knowing who Jimmy is, I don't think he's going to be like, you're not leaving me kind of thing. He's essentially a good person. I was confused a little bit of like, so in his mind, the reason he beat up the photographer was because he thought the photographer was sleeping with her. But he never like confronted her about it. Even in this, I mean, the scene where they have where he's like, "What are you thinking about?" was a little confrontational, but it didn't seem like it. Like he was like, "How dare you cheat on me?" or whatever kind of thing. So yeah, not sure what to make of this whole thing. But I'm getting too in the weeds with all this stuff. I'm gonna watch the next one here, and then I'll report to you guys soon. So talk to you then. And we're back. Like I said, I just wanted to finish off this season tonight, and really good. I really like the ending here. I'm gonna just kind of quickly go through the plot, because not a whole lot of stuff happens, but and then I want to talk about the whole season and what I thought about it as a whole. So, first of all, Nucky makes truce with Arnold Rothstein. He agrees to squash the indictment for fixing the World Series in exchange for $1 million, and then they kill off all the D'Alessio brothers. So bye bye Benny Fazio. So that's good, because I'm hoping we get to see more of the other gangsters. So like Al Capone, Lucky Luciano, Meyer Lansky. I'm hoping that they take a bigger role next season, because I enjoyed the bits that we got, but I'd love to see more. These are real historic figures, and I think it'd be really interesting to see their growth. We see that with Al Capone. There's a scene where like Luciano's making a joke about how they killed Big Jim Colosimo, and then Al Capone's like, enough with the jokes, get serious. And it's funny because he was the jokester, but he's like learned to take things more seriously now. So it's cool to see that. So like I said, I'm hoping we get more of it, and I think that now that the war is done, we'll see more interactions between a lot of these historic figures, which wasn't a big fan of the war between Rothstein and Nucky, because again, I felt like Nucky was really at fault for escalating the conflict, and it didn't really go anywhere or do anything. So wasn't a big fan of it overall. It wasn't tense for me ever. Partially because we didn't get to establish too much about the other side of it here, because we were establishing everything with the Atlantic City crew. So, but hopefully, like I said, next season I'm sure it's going to add more characters, and it'll get interesting here. But regardless, we have that going on. We have Jimmy and his wife kind of making up. They agree to do a fresh start. Although when she gets a postcard from France from Mary, who is the one who the lover who left her, she is I think heartbroken. I think that's why she cuts her hair. I think she's just trying to like cut away those memories, I think. So she's definitely not over this woman. We'll see if she comes back into her life somehow, or maybe she'll decide to run off anyway. I don't know. But we got some interesting stuff going on with Jimmy and the Commodore. So Jimmy's, of course, pissed off that the situation with his mother, that Nucky delivered her to the Commodore. He sees that Nucky just basically uses anyone for his own benefit. The Commodore is pissed off because we finally learn what happened, which was Nucky and him both got in trouble for like election rigging. But the deal was that the Commodore would go away, Nucky would stay in power, and then he would take care of the Commodore later. But when that happened, the Commodore was just basically forgotten. And again, Nucky only cares about himself. So he decides he wants to take back Atlantic City using Jimmy, and they have an ally, which is, of course, Eli. So even though Eli was given the title of sheriff back, he still feels hurt by the things that Nucky said to him. And so he's decided that he's going to throw in his lot with this other crew. So we're going to see next season, like I said, those betrayals as they kind of go against Nucky here. Excuse me. him and Margaret get back together, Nucky and Margaret. So I think she just like she got the rag and the cake, and that was a sign that she was going to be destitute. And again, I think it's a little bit about money, which I've liked that about Margaret. I like that they didn't shy away from making it like a little bit superficial, which is totally what happens in real life. Is people get kind of like used to a certain lifestyle, and not everyone's into changing it. But we've got that. We've got Van Alden has knocked up Lucy Danziger, which is like, oh my god, what a interesting situation. That is going to be interesting to see play out. My god, now he's added like a. Not only does he have the whole professional like stuff going on, now he's got this going on too. So, again, the Prohibition thing. I wasn't a huge fan of it this season because it didn't really go anywhere. Like I said, Van Alden's an interesting character, but the whole Prohibition storyline just didn't feel like they made any headway on Nucky, which, I mean, I get's kind of the point, but, this isn't The Wire, right? I'm not, this is definitely like a narrative, like, driven show where it's like, a tight story, tight characters, so... And it's not necessarily trying to be like, yeah, here's how life was. It is to an extent, but I feel more comfortable judging this show by like the Sopranos standards, especially considering it's Terry Winter. Again, my thoughts on the season as a whole. I liked it. It grew on me definitely. Like it's a slow start, and even towards the end here. It doesn't, it feels a little, an unfocused is not the right term. It's, it feels a little bit distracted. I think that's the word I would use, distracted. Obviously I'm comparing it to The Sopranos, which is not fair. It's meant to be a different show here, but, I think the fact that we're getting immersed into this other time period, it doesn't click as deep for me as The Sopranos does, which again, no show is ever going to be The Sopranos. I don't care, what, television show, no, how critically acclaimed, nothing's going to be better than The Sopranos. But it just didn't feel like the emotions were clicking as deep for me as like, which, I mean, to be fair, this season 1 of The Sopranos, I always said was the weakest one, so maybe it'll get a little bit more deep, but like I said, it just felt like more on like the surface because I think more time had to be dedicated in this show to like establishing the world because it's like a different time period. We had to get like immersed into that. Whereas The Sopranos happens in our time and stuff, it's pretty much all just like emotion. But the first season of any show, I think, is usually the weakest one. The characters. It takes time for the writers to kind of learn the characters and learn the writing and all that kind of stuff. So, I'm really interested to see the second season because, I think they've got a good mix here of like interesting characters and stuff and historical figures. And it's just a question for me is like, is it going to stay like surface level kind of emotion? Not again. I don't mean that like it's like terribly written or anything. Like, it's good. It's got some good beats, but it's just like the whole speech Nucky gives about his lost son and everything like that. It just doesn't feel like it punched me down. Like I know again, it's not fair to compare it to the end of The Sopranos, but like remember the scene in this like when Tony's talking about his son. And it's like my putrid, rotten fucking genes, like that. That brings like a tear to my eye because that thing just hits so deep. But this one, it was so like ephemeral. Like I was like, yeah, the son was dead for 4 days, and I was like, that's sad. But it's like it didn't hit me in a deep way, and I don't know why. Maybe it's the acting, maybe it's the writing, maybe it's all of that. But it's just not connecting with me on like a core level where I was like, oh my god, this is breaking my heart here. And I think some of that's just the time period. I think it's like there's like this cognitive dissonance where because it's like this different time, they just don't feel as relatable as like a modern day character would be. But again, I'm not reserving judgment on the whole show till I've watched the whole thing, and I'm definitely going to keep watching because I am engaged, and I think we got a lot of cool stuff going on. So that's pretty much my thoughts for the season. Thank you guys for watching these. I hope you continue to enjoy these reactions. I know it's not for everyone to just watch me sit here at my computer just talking about it, but I hope the thing I'd love for anyone watching this to glean is not just like a shitty recap of whatever I remembered as I hit the record button. It's more of like, I want you guys to see my thought process as I'm going through a show like this. And these are the thoughts that run through my head. I'm like, okay, what's this emotion mean? What's this character moment mean? How does this relate to the overall theme of the show? This is how I dissect a show, and this is the exact kind of stuff I was doing, for The Sopranos when I watched it for the first time. It's just, I didn't record it for you guys to see. So I'm hoping this provides some level of entertainment or value or whatever you want to call it. Whether, you're looking to get into this show, whether you're looking to get into any show, whether you're just interested to see how, someone like me who analyzes shows for, YouTube thinks about this kind of stuff. But that is the main, draw I wanted to have from these reactions. And I hope you guys continue to enjoy them. I'm going to continue to make them because, frankly, it's relatively easy to just turn it on and start talking. So thanks, guys, for watching, and we'll check out the next season soon. You can't be half a YouTuber anymore, Nucky. Russell, Sean, Heart of Markness, Logan, Clean, John Reyna, Jesse Sterling, Andrew Stewart, Ops Gracing Media, Daz Jake Hit, Conan Higgins, Sam Cedarlin, Don Lucania, Celery Man, and Jenna Marie Johnson.